This is the Badger Report.
Thanks for joining us today.
Cases of COVID-19 continue to skyrocket in Wisconsin this week amid the national pandemic. 1,762 cases were added Thursday, along with 22 deaths, reaching the weekly record high for the state. Officials are concerned that the situation may continue to get worse before it gets better. A field hospital set to treat COVID-19 patients at the Wisconsin State Fairgrounds has been open for more than a week, but only one person has been admitted. Doctors say the facility is designed to treat non-critical COVID-19 patients and take pressure off of state hospitals.
You know, it's by necessity, it has to be somewhat bare bones because it's being stood up literally as we speak, but it's still sufficient to meet the needs of many people who need care but don't need ICU level care.
Theta Care's EMS coordinator, Jason Selwichka, says that patients are not enthusiastic about the transition.
But again, everybody's scared right now, and then to go down and stay on a cot, essentially an army cot, it's not necessarily comfortable.
However, as cases continue to surge in Wisconsin, officials say that more patients will be more likely to be admitted soon.
As cases of COVID surge, a lawsuit challenging Wisconsin's mask mandate was struck down by a judge this week. The 60-day mandate issued in September marks Governor Tony Evers' third use of his emergency powers to fight the coronavirus since March. Evers then scored his second win in the court this week after an order was upheld that limits the capacity of indoor bars and restaurants to just 25%. That order is in place now until November 6th, when the mask mandate will run until November 21st. Political yard signs look different this year as we head into the November 2020 presidential election.
Sally Young with the Badger Report has the story.
In the battleground state of Wisconsin, political yard signs take on an entirely new meaning this election year.
I think people are feeling more emboldened to make their political beliefs known and publicized now.
As record-breaking numbers of yard signs are distributed across the state, tolerance is decreasing.
What I think has changed, unfortunately, is our attitudes towards yard signs as a form of political expression.
Recent upticks in voter intimidation tactics reflect a highly polarized nation.
There's more attempts made by people on both sides to vandalize yard signs, to steal them.
Take Dane County, for example, where strings of Biden signs line the street. I was hard-pressed to find any Trump signs in the area. The chair of the Republican Party of Dane County says that although Dane County is the third largest Republican voter turnout in the state, outward displays of conservative opinion is almost non-existent.
Take some guts to go out and put that Trump sign out and then have it destroyed or vandalized. I think that's particularly has a chilling effect on free speech.
In past elections, it was common to see opposing yard signs in one area. McLeod says we are now entering a new phase of majority rules.
If you're a Democrat living in a red neighborhood or a Republican living in a blue neighborhood, you may be less likely to put out a yard sign.
For the Badger Report, I'm Sally Young.
As the presidential race heats up, Wisconsin is seeing a record number of absentee voters so far this year. Over 900,000 ballots have already been returned to election officials, a number that represents over 30% of all votes cast in 2016. The presidential candidates are campaigning in Wisconsin weeks before the election, and vice presidential candidate Kamala Harris held a rally in Milwaukee Tuesday, while President Trump is expected to make a stop in the state on Saturday.
For a lot of UW-Madison students, this election season will be their first time voting. In an important swing state, the university is setting up tents to make it easier for students to register and to vote. In-person absentee voting and registration will be available on campus 9 hours a day, 7 days a week. From now until October 30th, outdoor tents are being set up at Memorial Union and 2 other locations downtown. Many students are taking advantage of these tents and recognize the importance of voting.
Yeah, I think it's really important for any first-time voter, any new voter to come out and vote, register to vote, really make a big impact, especially in a swing state like Wisconsin. Every vote counts and we need as many people as possible.
Though there were large lines, students were able to make it inside to cast their vote.
Overall, the process was pretty smooth. Took about an hour to get through line after I registered, but I appreciate that they're doing this on campus and making it accessible for all the students.
With campus-wide Get Out the Vote efforts, students' voices are begging to be heard. It's no secret that the 2020 election has stirred a lot of excitement for voters nationwide.
I went to Milwaukee to see what the excitement is all about. As of today, over 31 million voters have cast their ballot, and that is 5 times the number of ballots cast at this time in 2016. Across the state, early voting is being offered to voters to aid them in gaining access to the ballot. In Milwaukee, community organizations are taking a different route to mobilize voters.
We're offering free rides to and from the poll throughout Milwaukee County.
The organization will be giving rides to community members at all 16 Milwaukee polling locations for the duration of the early voting period. Jackson hopes the effort will play a role in informing the community about the importance of voting and the power of their voice.
And just try to galvanize the community to get excited, to exercise the right that so many people died, especially in our community, the black community. Where we're having a lot of misunderstanding about our votes don't matter. And we're trying to teach and educate the community that if your vote didn't matter, they wouldn't be coming up with all these different technical ways to keep us from the polls.
So in April, Tamia, there were only 5 places in Milwaukee to vote. What are they doing now to make sure that everyone has access to a ballot?
Absolutely. So to prevent those long lines, Milwaukee has 16 polling locations that they're offering for people to go vote early at. And also they have absentee drop boxes throughout the city. And in addition to that, local organizations similar to Expo are hosting events where they're getting people out to vote and doing voter education, which seems to be really helpful to community members. As voters get out to the polls, freshmen on college campuses are being forced to stay in. See more about what the university social distancing efforts are doing after the break.
And later, we'll dig into a toxic chemical problem that might disrupt plans to redevelop a 100-year-old meat processing plant on the city's north side.